Hey everybody, Dave Samlin here with Apex Muscle Journal and Team Doberman. Today is coffee time and we're going to talk about bands. But prior to that, we're going to talk about our coffee of the day. Today is Barbell Brew. It's a company out of Ohio that makes small batch coffee. This is their Ethiopian blend, which is one of my favorite kinds of coffee, the coffees that come out of Ethiopia. It's got a nice mild flavor, not acidic. It also has a lot of flavor as far as notes. You taste different notes throughout it, and it doesn't have that burnt flavor that you might get at somewhere like Starbucks. So it's a good coffee house coffee. It's not like something you get at the store at all. Very good flavor, but like this is an all-day coffee. You can drink it any time of the day. So I highly recommend them. Check them out at barbellbrew.com and support a small local company. Thanks, guys. Now, as far as bands go, I want to talk about the uses and misuses of bands. Now, prior to that, keep in mind that there's an exception to every rule. As far as the first misuse of bands that I see is using them inappropriately on exercises. For instance, inappropriate use would be using a band as a tricep extension to accentuate the contraction of the tricep. Now, an inappropriate use would be using a barbell band on a bench press to accentuate the contraction on the chest. The top third of the movement on a barbell bench press is primarily going to be involving the triceps and the shoulders. The bottom 2/3 is going to be more chest. So if we're putting bands on, we're actually accentuating the action of the triceps and shoulders. Not something we're trying to do if we're bodybuilding and we're worrying about hypertrophy of the chest. Again, there's always an exception to the rule, and there may be a secondary reason why that trainee wants to do it, but for the most part, it's an inappropriate use of the exercise. Number 2, overusing bands. If you see somebody using 3 or 4 exercises in one workout for a band, they are overusing them. You really only want 1 or 2 exercises. I really just like 1 exercise per workout for bands to do whatever your goal is. Now, I also put a limit on the amount of time that I use bands. 6 weeks is perfect. Any more than that, and I feel like you're overusing them. Now, that's 6 weeks per exercise. So you can switch to another exercise that you want to use bands on, but for 1 exercise, 6 weeks is the limit. The next thing is the uses of bands, the appropriate uses of bands. Activation. Activation absolutely is a great use for bands. Using them for abduction movements where you are trying to focus on the hips and glutes prior to a squat, great use for bands. I like to do that, but then make sure that I'm just using it as an activation. I don't want to use it as a superset. So use it, rest a minute or 2, and then do your heavy squats. Number 2, accentuate the contraction. This is a way to improve the mind-muscle connection. It's also a way to have a little bit of a contrasting training. So for instance, we're doing a row and we're really focusing on the contraction. We add bands and that accentuates the contraction. And then the second exercise or an exercise later on may be something that focuses on the stretch position of the muscle, like a dumbbell pullover. That's a great use. Number 3 is stretching. Stretching is great for bands. It improves the mind-muscle connection. It's also where you're able to be progressive with the bands and pull up higher on them. I like to use them for lats and hamstrings. Great use for the bands. Always just start out loose, then go harder and harder. Just be progressive with your stretching, just like you would your weight training. So that's it, folks. Again, always a exception to the rule. Keep that in mind. If you have any questions, comments, or anything else, put them below, and we'll try to answer as soon as possible. Thanks, guys.